What is up, the Lions fans? It's your boy Motor City Don P. We are back here once again, and you already know what time it is. It is time to talk about stuff. Now, what kind of stuff do we talk about? Stuff. Offensive coordinator stuff. It's going to be big news. It's going to be what the show is about until we get a damn offensive coordinator because you got to move forward, man. You got to move forward. The season is over for the Detroit Lions and for most of the teams in the NFL. There's only a few teams left. What is it? 6 teams to be exact that are left, right? 3 on one side, 3 on the other side. Or what is it? How many? Wait. It'll be 4 teams left after this. So 8 teams, I should say. Okay. But one thing's for certain and 3 things are for sure. When you see me in front of your TV, number 1, the Motor City Cats are indeed back at it. Number 2, we came to give you stats, not none of that static. Number 3, perhaps the most important number of them all, number 3. You want to make sure you keep your Lions news pragmatic, and you may be asking yourself, how, Don? Oh, Mr. P. Does one keep the Lions news pragmatic? Well, it's very simple. It's easy. I won't keep it for you. I'll give you the key. Smash the like button, subscribe, share with your peoples. And it doesn't matter in which order you've done those things in. Once you've done those things, you've indeed kept your Lions news pragmatic. And speaking of your peoples, when you share this with your brothers, your fathers, your sisters, your mothers, your cousins, your uncles, your brothers, your fathers, your mothers, you name it. You name it. You have indeed shared with these people, and you have indeed had beans, greens, potatoes, tomatoes, lamb, rams, hogs, dogs, greens, potatoes, tomatoes, chicken. You name it. You've indeed had all that. Anyway, you know what it is. Hashtag if you know, you know. Use the hashtag Detroit Lions. Get right into it, man. I don't have a whole lot of time today. Was running late, didn't get my thumbnail made. I got the thumbnail made, I just didn't have time to load it up. So I'm gonna get that probably loaded up after the show and all this other stuff. But it is what it is. So let's go ahead and talk about what we got to talk about. What we got to talk about today. Detroit Lions, Arthur Smith. Listen, man. I get it. The Detroit Lions are casting a wide net. And as I said, what up though to everybody in the chat? What up though, Zach J? What up though, Irv Gotti? Yeah, 8 teams. Irv Gotti has a question for me. Let me get to your question before I get into my spiel. Question: Can the Lions request to interview Brian Flores since Miami requested to interview Shep? I don't think it works that way because they can they can do what they want to do. I believe that if Brian Flores is getting a head coaching job, it's going to be I believe, okay, that Brian Flores, let me change that statement, is going to be the next head coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers. And I said this earlier on in the process. Once Mike Tomlin stepped aside, Brian Flores, if you guys remember, was the senior defensive assistant and linebackers coach for the Pittsburgh Steelers in 2022. This was the year or the year after. I think it was the year after. I think Brian Flores was out of football for a year when he sued the league. Mike Tomlin brought him back to the NFL. He made him the assistant. He made him the senior defensive assistant for the Pittsburgh Steelers and the linebackers coach. And then after that year, he went on to get the Minnesota Vikings job, and the rest was history. And then there was an article that came out today that said that Mike Tomlin's role with the Pittsburgh Steelers may not be finished after all. So if he is going to be an advisor, if he is going to be a person that helps them transition into their next head coach, he is going to throw in Brian Flores' name in the hat, which seems like he's already done. And he's going to sing the praises of Brian Flores, and he's going to tell the Roonies, not the Roonies, sorry. He's going to tell, I forget the, yeah, it is. Isn't the Roonies? I think it is the Roonies. Don't the Roonies own the Steelers? Because the Maras own the Giants. He's gonna tell the owners of the I think it is the Roonies. Um anyway, he's gonna tell them Brian Flores is your guy. So the only hope that we have at a Brian Flores or a Raheem Morris is the interesting hiring that happened with the New York Giants. John Harbaugh, 5 years, $100 million, $20 million a year to be the next head coach of the New York Giants. He's got a great young core. Todd Monken is rumored to be going. It's not official, okay? But obviously he's going to want to bring his guy over there. They've got another running quarterback. I think Todd Monken did great with Lamar. Now, listen, guys, this is why I love my chat, because my chat has more intelligent Lions fans. It may be small, but it has the more intelligent Lions fans. It doesn't have the Lions fans that can look at Lamar Jackson's season with all the injuries and go, he sucks. It was Todd Monken's fault. I've heard that. I've seen that. There's some shows out there that say that the season that Lamar Jackson had this year was Todd Monken's fault. However, Todd Monken had, I guess, nothing to do with his season last year when that was the best season of his career. He had nothing to do with that, but he had something to do with Lamar Jackson having a poor season by his standards due to injuries. That was Todd Monken's fault. Okay, cool. If y'all live in that type of world and that's your reality, go ahead and do that. I'm not gonna fight you. What up, though, Mr. Morale 313? Let me get to your. Says I think it would be either Baltimore or Pittsburgh because Flores fits the culture of both teams. He does. I do believe it would be Pittsburgh though because he's going to come highly recommended, right? And he was already in the building. So I think they would be the odds-on favorite. Baltimore is intriguing, so we'll have to see how that goes. But I think he winds up as the next head coach of an AFC North team. But anyway, so yes, Todd Monken, I believe, is going to be off the board. I don't think that there was any type of what would you call it? Any interest in Monken, or anything of that nature. So, but we do have interest in someone who does suck. That is Arthur Smith. Hold on, guys. All right. Now, I know Philly fired their OC. That would be a good plan B option. I talked about this yesterday. A plan B option for what? Philly's OC? You mean Philly's OC to come here? Brother, are you crazy? I hope you're talking about Mike McDaniel going to Philadelphia. That would be a plan B option for him. No, sir. Kevin Petula was terrible. That's why he got fired as the offensive coordinator. No, sir. Not in the least bit do we want a Kevin Petula up in here. The frick is this, bro? Wow, that's oof. Okay. Yeah, there we go. Arthur Smith's bad. Okay. Now, listen, I just want to read you some numbers. Okay. Before I get into anything else, cheeks and a half. Cheeks and a half. What up, though, Jody Carruthers? I want to give you some numbers. Okay. Since leaving the Tennessee Titans, where he was the offensive coordinator, well, he's actually the head coach. Arthur Smith has served as the head coach. Oh, sorry, he was the offensive coordinator in Tennessee Titans. He served as the head coach of the Atlanta Falcons 2021 to 2023 and the offensive coordinator for the Pittsburgh Steelers 2024 to now. Here are his offensive numbers for those 10 years as of January 2026. Pittsburgh Steelers offensive coordinator Smith returned to a dedicated offensive coordinator role in 2024. Under his guidance, the Steelers offense has generally been a middle of the pack unit that relies heavily on the run but struggles with passing volume. Does that sound like someone that you want to be your offensive coordinator? Because we know the optics of it all sucked. Here are the optics of Pittsburgh's offense for the last 2 years. Now, they didn't have a quarterback for the first year. And then they got Aaron Rodgers the second year. Before playing us, Aaron Rodgers was averaging 3 air yards per pass. 3 air yards per attempt. By far the lowest average in his career. That is the quintessential definition of dink and dunk. 3 air yards. If y'all don't know what air yards means, it means the ball travels in the air from quarterback's fingertips to wide receiver or running back or a tight end, whatever the target is, fingertips. Between Aaron Rodgers' fingertips and the fingertips of DK Metcalf, Jaylen Warren, Darnell Washington, Pat Freiermuth, and so on and so forth. The average distance between his fingertips and their fingertips was 3 yards. 3 yards, 9 feet. Okay? 9 feet. Quick math, what is that? 108 inches? Something like that? Okay. That was it. 108 inches. 9 feet. 3 yards. Is that not Johnny Morton's offense? I don't understand what Arthur Smith is doing here. In your list of candidates, you say we've got a really good candidate in Mike McDaniel, and then we go to a really bad candidate in Arthur Smith. I guess that's the widest net that you can cast. Like you can say, I'm going to interview the best candidate, and then I'm going to go and directly after that and interview the worst one. Okay. All right. Here is the 2025 season in a nutshell. Points per game, 23.4, ranking 15th. Total yards per game, 305.6, ranking 25th. Record 10-7, lost in the wild card. Note, despite acquiring quarterback Aaron Rodgers, the offense regressed in total yardage compared to 2024, though scoring rose slightly. The unit remained run heavy, often criticized for underutilizing key receiving talent like Pat Freiermuth, in favor of Smith's preferred personnel Personnel example, Jonnu Smith. So you're telling me that Johnny Morton didn't know how to use anybody other than Amon-Ra St. Brown, and you want to bring in a guy that doesn't know how to use anybody other than his preferred target, like Jonnu Smith, who he had in Pittsburgh. He probably was in Atlanta. I'm sorry, in Tennessee. He probably was in Atlanta for a cup of coffee, and now he's in Pittsburgh. You're telling me that that's not Johnny Morton-esque? Okay. Because I just wanted to bring forth the numbers because people like to argue sometimes when I'm spitting facts. Okay. So I just wanted to bring forth the numbers. I'm not a numbers guy, but numbers with context is what I do. Okay. If I'm using numbers, we're going to have the context. We're going to talk about the numbers and why they are the way that they are. All right. The 2024 season, points per game, 22.4, ranked 16th. Total yards per game, 317.2, ranked 23rd. So it wasn't a big drop off in yards or rank, but the rank was still bad, right? We said it was 25th this year and it was 23rd last year. Okay. Record last year was 10-7, and they lost in a wild card. Same outcome. Notes, in his first year in Pittsburgh with Russell Wilson and Justin Fields, the offense improved in rushing efficiency, ranked 11th, but lacked explosiveness in the passing game. Okay? All right. Atlanta Falcons head coach and play caller. While his official title was head coach, Smith called the offensive plays during his 3-year stint in Atlanta. These offenses consistently ranked in the bottom third of the league. Now, to give Arthur Smith the most grace that I will give him in this entire show, he had quarterbacks like Desmond Ridder, Marcus Mariota, who actually did look pretty good in Washington in his relief of Jaden Daniels. But we know that Marcus Mariota has turned into a journeyman, so he's not really your reliable starter. Even though that season he was on quarterback, he did start off pretty well as the quarterback for the Atlanta Falcons. And then he got benched for Desmond Ridder, and everything went off the rails. Okay? So he was in the bottom third of the league. In 2023, 18.9 points per game. That's 26th. 334.3 yards per game. That was 17th. In 2022, he was 21.5 points per game, 17th, 318.6 yards per game, 24th. In 2021, he was 18.4 points per game, 26th, 303.8 yards per game, 29th. Overall trend, the Falcons went 7-10 in all 3 seasons. The offense was characterized by a heavy rushing attack, often top 10 in rushing yards, but a struggling passing attack and inconsistent quarterback play. Matt Ryan, Marcus Mariota, Desmond Ridder. Summary of the post-Tennessee performance. Since leaving Tennessee, Arthur Smith's offenses have not replicated the top 5 efficiency he achieved with the Titans 2019 through 2020. Tennessee 2020, 30.7 points per game. 4th, 396.4 yards per game. 2nd. Post-Tennessee averages 20.9 points per game and 315 yards per game. His post-Titans units have established a clear identity. They are consistently above average in rushing, but consistently below average in passing volume and scoring. Those aren't the numbers of a guy who I want to give the keys to my offense. So I just wanted to go through because I didn't want to spend a whole lot of time telling you how bad Arthur Smith is, because sometimes people hear, oh, he was a head coach. He was a Derrick Henry merchant. That's it. You know what I mean? So he wasn't the one. All right, let me get um to your comments before I give you the next person. All right. All right. Because you're gonna love that one. You're gonna love that one. Okay. Um, what up, though, Kane Press? Do you know Amon St. Brown plays for the Detroit Lions and he's one of the leaders of the Detroit Lions? I'm just all right. What up, the tactical sport? I actually didn't see you, but it's when I'm talking, don't really see the chat like that. You know what I mean? Sometimes I do. Um, all right. Oh yeah, it's super cheeks. Super duper cheeks, bro. Super duper cheeks. Dan can go ahead and hire whoever he wants. At the end of the day, it's his job. He's putting on the line. Get up on the line, boy. Oh my goodness. All right. Now the next candidate, because y'all remember, y'all told me that Zach Robinson might be a good candidate, the offensive coordinator of the Atlanta Falcons, because obviously he is available since the head coach was fired in Raheem Morris. Okay. But there are some numbers that might surprise you. And we're going to go over them right now. All right. Cheeks and a half, as this chat would say. Okay. So as of January 16th, 2026, the Detroit Lions are interviewing Zach Robinson for their offensive coordinator vacancy. The history being cited by reporters refers to a 2-year overlap in Los Angeles, 2019 and 2020, when Robinson was a low-level offensive assistant and Jared Goff was the starting quarterback. Okay, so there's history between Robinson and Goff. That's a good thing, right? Here is the statistical breakdown of Goff's performance with Robinson in LA versus his recent performance without him in Detroit. Timeline 2019 to 2020. This was with Robinson. Robinson's role, assistant QB coach, 2019, assistant wide receivers coach, 2020. No, Robinson was not the play caller. Sean McVay called the plays. Okay. However, he was the assistant quarterbacks coach. In 2019, Goff was 62.9%, 4,638 yards, 22 touchdowns, and 16 interceptions. In 2020, he played 15 games. His percentage went from 62.9 to 67%. He did throw for less yards, only 2 less TDs, and 3 less interceptions. Okay. Goff averaged roughly 1.4 touchdowns per interception during this period. Context: under this staff, Goff's confidence appeared to wane, and the offense became less efficient compared to his Super Bowl run in 2018. Now, without Robinson from 2022 to 2025, uh, already know we had the Osama bin Johnson and we had Johnny Morton. Okay, 2024, 17 games, 72%, 4,629 yards, 37 touchdowns, 12 interceptions. 2025, 17 games, 67.9%, 4,564 yards, 34 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. Okay. The takeaway, while the media cites a connection because they were in the same building, the data suggests Jared Goff has been a significantly better quarterback without Zach Robinson. If the Lions hire Robinson, it would be less about recreating the magic of 2019 and more about Robinson proving that he can adapt his scheme to the current elite version of Jared Goff. What are we doing? So these two guys, mind you, he wasn't the direct quarterback coach. He was the assistant quarterback coach. And I get that he wasn't directly responsible for the inefficient passing, the interceptions, the turnovers. But we've already seen that at the very least, working with Zach Robinson doesn't make your quarterback better. At the very least, by the numbers. I gave you the context for the numbers. I told you he wasn't the direct guy, he was the assistant guy. Right? And then when as soon as they moved him over to wide receivers coach in 2020, the picks went down. Now the picks only went down by 3. But I mean, it's a small. It's what's positive about it? Like, what is positive about Zach Robinson working with Jared Goff? We know the negative, but what's the positive? Leave his ass where he is. I do not get it. I do not understand it. I don't know what's going on. Like with Mike McDaniels, I'm like that's obviously like everybody's first choice. And then you've got someone like Jake Peetz, who's intriguing. He is currently the Seahawks passing game coordinator. He learned under Sean McVay, so on and so forth. Then you've got other names out there. You've got Mike Kafka, who I'm not 100%. I don't want Mike Kafka. I don't think that the game that he played against us showed that he's a brilliant offensive mind. I think it just showed how bad the defense was. I said this before. Shep decided that Wan'Dale Robinson didn't need to be covered. And that's why he racked up damn near 150 yards on us. Right? Shep decided that he didn't know how to call defense in that game and that it was just going to have to be a shootout. Right? On the other side of the ball, Jahmyr Gibbs had 200 yards from scrimmage. So I don't just this news of these guys coming into the building for interview. Why are you wasting your time? If you want to hire Johnny Mo 2.0, hire Arthur Smith. If you want to hire a guy that we've seen some sample size that he doesn't make your quarterback better, he actually makes him worse when he comes in contact with him. Hire Zach Robinson. I don't get this. I don't get these two candidates. And I just it may be kicking the tires on Robinson. He knows how to properly use a running back like Gibbs. That connection with Goff is mute at best. Here's the thing, right? Pros and cons. We'll go pros and cons with Zach Robinson. The pros are he knows how to use a running back like Gibbs, because I've been saying, hey, somebody look at Atlanta and how they use Bijan Robinson. I've been saying that 100%. Okay. That's something that I've said, and that's something that I stand by. The cons are, again, Zach Robinson is from an era in Jared Goff's career where he had no confidence, where his confidence was being torn down. And I really don't think, if I'm being fair to Zach Robinson, if I'm being fair to him, as I said, he wasn't directly responsible for Jared Goff at the time. But then Jared Goff he knows the inner workings of what that was, and he may not want to have that guy in there. I don't know. But it's just like, I'll tell you what. If we hired Zach Robinson, if it was between Zach Robinson and Arthur Smith, I'd rather have Zach Robinson. But I'm not going to be over the moon about it. Like, I'm going to have to, Zach Robinson is going to have to. Okay. If I'm thinking about when Atlanta had an offense, okay? Well, I'm sorry, not an offense, a quarterback. A healthy Kirk Cousins finished the season 5-2. A healthy Kirk Cousins. A healthy Michael Penix was cheeks. There's not much you can do without a quarterback. And that's why I said, in fairness to Arthur Smith, when he was in Atlanta, he didn't have one. Right? In fairness to Arthur Smith. Matt Ryan was on his last legs. He was on his way out. And then you had Desmond Ridder and Marcus Mariota, or Marcus Mariota and Desmond Ridder. Then when you got to the Steelers, you had Mason Rudolph and Kenny Pickett. And then you had the corpse of Aaron Rodgers. So in fairness to these guys, we know that Zach Robinson's offense can be effective if he has a quarterback. And he wasn't the offensive coordinator when he was in LA. Wasn't the play caller. He did learn from Sean McVay. Right? I'm talking y'all are watching me talk myself into this. I'm not saying that I want him, but I'm making him a better candidate than he initially appeared to be. This is what's happening in my mind right now. Okay? So just bear with me. I'm not telling you I want Zach Robinson. I'm telling you initially it seemed worse than maybe it is. Arthur Smith, regardless, I understand that he didn't have a quarterback, but then I also understand how he underutilized weapons like DK Metcalf, like Pat Fryermuth. And we just got out of that type of relationship, right? You just got out of that type of relationship. You just had Johnny Moe, who underutilized everybody other than Amon-Ra St. Brown. He underutilized Monty. He wrongly utilized Gibbs. Gibbs is just special. He didn't utilize JMO like at all. It's amazing that JMO got over 1,000 yards. The first 9 weeks of the season, he was barely seeing any targets. So if I had to choose between one of these guys, I would pick Zach Robinson. Because we're gonna do the whole he learned under McVay, he learned so did Jake Peetz, right? Jake Peetz, that's why he's a popular name, you know. And he's also, I'm not gonna say he matches wits with Sean McVay twice a year because he's not the offensive coordinator over there. He is the passing game coordinator. And they play each other twice a year, but he's also not going against Sean McVay because that would be the defensive coordinator who's going against Sean McVay. But he can give them insight and probably does give them insight into Sean McVay's mind, how he likes to do things, what he sees, such so and so and so on and so forth. So if you look at Jake Peetz has a role where when it's Rams time, hey, let's pick your brain. What did you learn from Sean McVay in this situation? What does he like to do here? You get me? So if we're gonna prop up someone like him who doesn't actually have any offensive coordinator experience, but he came from the McVay tree, so did Zach Robinson. I almost called him Zach Taylor. I think Zach Taylor did as well, right? Zach Taylor did come from the Sean McVay tree. So that's my point. Like, I guess Zach Robinson wouldn't be as bad as we initially thought. All right. Let me get to your comments. It's a lot of them. Okay, I read that one. All right, the Lions have to get this offensive coordinator position right. With that being the case, you don't go and get someone who didn't improve JG when he was around JG. I understand that. Right. JG needs someone who can help him utilize his accuracy and timing with all the weapons he has, not just St. Brown. And that's why I said I'm, talking myself into Zach Robinson. Um, they're using Pitts, they're using London, they're using Tyler Algier, along with so we look again, another feather in the cap of Zach Robinson. Again, I don't think that Zach Robinson would be hired, but if he is hired, we'd have to try to figure out what Dan Campbell was seeing in the moment. So another feather in the cap of Zach Robinson is he does know how to use two running backs. He does. I mean, Tyler Algier splits carries with Bijan Robinson. And while Bijan is the better back and the feature back, Tyler Algier gets enough carries. To my knowledge, he's not, posting comments, crazy stories, or what would you call it, cryptic messages on IG and liking comments about, Bijan Robinson getting less carries. None of that stuff's happening. So I don't know. All right. I'm not saying hire Robinson, just kick the tires. That's all. Right. Tell you the truth, I wasn't a fan of his play concepts other than how he uses Bijan Robinson. I feel you, but I also didn't feel that. So Kyle Pitts has been the mystery. I think though this year he did take a step forward. Because he had a quarterback that came there last year in Kirk Cousins that wanted to get him involved. I think he was looking for Kyle Pitts more. So I don't know. Kyle Pitts may just be cheeks, but then it looked like it felt like he was having a better season these last 2 seasons than he's had. So Arthur Smith, I would legit send in my fan resignation letter ASAP. Rocky Ferg. Hey, I wouldn't blame you. I wouldn't blame you. I think if you hire Arthur Smith, I'm going to crash out, and there's not going to be any redeeming qualities. I don't want to hear what you can do. So here's Arthur Smith's sales pitch. You saw what I did when I had a quarterback. I had Ryan Tannehill. We scored 30 points per game. I had Derrick Henry. He was, scored 30 points per game. We're number 1 in the league in scoring. So if you just give me Jared Goff, I know what kind of quarterback he is. That's a selling point. That's his argument. I'm going to sell myself on, if you could just let me get my hands on Jared Goff, I could do some things. And I don't buy it. It's baloney. I don't buy it at all. But yeah. So what we're gonna do, guys, is as I told you, the Thursday shows will be kind of tight to the wire. So let's do an extended mailbag session. All right, y'all ready? Mailbag. What you gonna do? What you gonna do when they reading you? Mailbag. Niggas, mailbag. Get your mailbag questions in. Get them in. Bask in it. All right, so we get about 10 minutes. So you get you some good mailbag questions in, man. Get you some good mailbag questions in. I'll answer them, and then I will have to skedaddle. All right. Yeah, no to Arthur Smith. Yeah, it's upsetting. It's upsetting that because they had to make a request now. Because once a head coach steps down, or once a head coach gets fired, his staff's not like immediately available. Which I think sometimes people think that, like, okay, once a dude gets fired, everybody in the staff is just immediately fired as well. I mean, and they may do that in some capacity sometimes. Um, but sometimes people stick around. Like when Fatty Matty Patty was fired, Osama bin Johnson stuck around. The reason that Osama bin Johnson has such hatred for Brian Flores, and I've said this before, when Brian Flores got to Miami, he already had his own staff that he was bringing with him So Osama bin Johnson was not retained. And that's why Osama bin Johnson wants to beat the brakes off the Vikings every time they play because he has a personal vendetta against Brian Flores. That makes sense? Regardless of how that might sound. Um, so the fact that they reached out to the Pittsburgh Steelers and said, "Hey, can we interview this man?" That's the most upsetting part. That Dan Campbell wanted and went to the trouble of reaching out and seeking permission for an interview with Arthur Smith. I don't get it. I really don't. Meanwhile, the vacancies that are still out there. So Miami was putting on the full court press, right? To try to get John Harbaugh. And apparently they had a plane and everything ready to go. And John Harbaugh doesn't leave New York. Could this mean that in their desperation, Miami might sign a young defensive coordinator fresh off of his first season as a defensive coordinator? Is that what that might mean? Because what are their options? Are you going with a coach that got fired during this cycle? Are you going with Raheem Morris? Are you going with a guy like a Mike McCarthy? What's the net that the Miami Dolphins are now casting? Are you going with Kevin Stefanski? And who's choosing you? Because again, your firing of Mike McDaniel just because John Harbaugh became available backfired on you in a big, big way. You announce one day that he's going to help you in the GM search, and the next day he's fired. It's crazy. LMAO, Osama bin Johnson is crazy work. I thought Benedict Arnold was good. No, he's Osama bin Johnson. uh Mailbag. So there's 11 OC positions open and 9 head coaching positions open. Are the Lions the best OC position available? Also, where would you rank the Lions OC position to the other head coaching jobs? Okay, so I would believe that the Lions OC position is the number one. And the reason excuse me. The reason is the weapons that we have. And they're all intact and under contract. The only one that's not under contract, well, he's still under contract, but he would need to be extended, is Sam Laporta. And the only thing that is going to keep Sam Laporta from getting extended, and speaking of that, I'll tell you in a second, would be his back if it's not progressing as well as we think that it can and should. Mike Payton wants TJ Hawkinson back. That's the speaking of that. Do with that what you will. I can't really rank the Lions offensive coordinator position to the head coaching position because Brian Flores is a candidate for a head coaching position in Pittsburgh. Brian Flores is a defensive coordinator. So the offensive coordinator position and the head coaching position, the attractiveness can only be quantified in terms of offensive head coaches. If you are an offensive head coach that has just been fired and you do not want to get fired again, I would think that the Lions open vacancies is where you want to go. I would think that that's the top position there. But yeah, I just think the Lions are really a couple pieces on the offensive line away from getting back to what they were. Right? Like a couple pieces on the offensive line where we believe that before the draft even comes, we'll have a center. Right? Because one thing that Brad Holmes did say is that they're going to aggressively pursue upgrades on the offensive line. So we'll see about that. Okay? He didn't commit to aggressiveness anywhere else, but he said he's going to be aggressive about that. So we'll see. And I don't want to hear anything that you tried. I don't want to hear that you tried to get Tyler Lindenbaum. I don't want to hear that you tried to get this one, you tried to get that one, you tried to get the other one. Give him the money. Okay? So yeah, I think that it's, and then the assortment of weapons. I mean, you've got Jahmyr Gibbs, you've got J-Mo, you've got David Montgomery, you've got Amon-Ra St. Brown, you've got Sam Laporta, you've got Isaac Tesla. If that's intriguing, I mean, I guess it is intriguing, but Tesla is a good player. He just wasn't worth the 3 third-round picks. Mailbag, if the Lions are looking at these bums, why not Mike McCarthy? No. Just what about Mike McCarthy's offense makes you go, hey, let's use that guy? Right? I'm looking for somebody that stands out on offense. Right? As we talked about Zach Robinson earlier, Bijan, the Bijan thing, Bijan and Tyler Algier, that stands out because they've got a 2-back set. We've got a 2-back set. Right? Well, not a 2-back set, but we've got 2 backs, our 2-back rotation. You know, we need to get back to running the football. Johnny Moe got away from that. Dan Campbell seemed to get away from that. A lot of running the ball straight up the middle, all that. So, no. Oh. I thought you typed it after I mentioned it. Bryson Leftwich. You mean Byron Leftwich? Hassless Lee guy. Either one of those for OC. As far as DC, maybe bring in a mentor for Shep, an old dog with a bunch of tricks. Here's an honest question. Shep has been interviewed for a head coaching job, or at least he's been requested to do the interview for a head coaching job. Do you think he then comes back and takes a back seat to some old dog that's trying to teach him a bunch of tricks? Do you think he accepts a demotion back to linebackers coach? Best case scenario for Shep is to get hired. For Shep and the Lions is that he gets hired as a head coach, as a Miami Dolphins head coach, and we can go ahead and bring in Raheem Morris. That's the best case scenario. Speaking of Byron Leftwich, where is he? I don't know. I don't know. Is he? I want to say he's back in Jacksonville, but I don't know where he is. It seems to me that using Gibbs as a slot and Monty as a single back or 2-back schemes would really allow for some mismatches. Am I tripping? Only time we did that was with Monty as QB. So you got to watch the games with me, man. I screamed for it the entire game. You know, uh, and I think it was a Chicago game. And every time I saw them on the field together, I was like, "Oh, would you imagine that? You can do that." I didn't know you could use both backs at the same time on the field. So you're not tripping at all. You just, and this is why we're looking for someone like a Mike McDaniel. I don't know what it is about Detroit. Oh, well, I really want to get Monty the ball. Put him in the game at the same time as Gibbs. It's not difficult. It really isn't. I promise you. I swear it isn't. It's not. It just isn't difficult. The interview for Shep was a Rooney Rule interview. I understand that it was a Rooney Rule interview, but once you go get interviewed as a head coach, and then you come back to your team, and they go, "Hey, man, what you doing? You want to go and be a linebackers coach? Because we finna bring in Brian Flores, or we about to bring in Raheem Morris for the defensive coordinator position that's not vacant, but we gonna make it vacant if he wants to take the job. You want to be a linebackers coach? We'll make sure that if we hire him, we'll tell him he got to keep you on as a linebackers coach. You want to do that? I don't think so. I don't think so. All right, y'all. I gotta go ahead and get up out of here. Once again, the Motor City Cats are indeed back at it. We came to give you stats, not none of that static. Whatever you do, make sure you keep your Lions news pragmatic. We'll be back here tomorrow, and hopefully, we'll have some news that we want to hear. Hopefully, there will be multiple after that first domino fell, which was John Harbaugh. Hopefully, there will be multiple head coaching hires, none of them mentioning the name of Mike McDaniel. So we will keep our eye out for that. Give Shep the senior defensive assistant. Either way, you're no longer the defensive coordinator because you didn't do well. So it's just like pandering. You know what I mean? McDaniel's screen game, his all that, the running game, the concept, all of that is crazy. That's why we want the news that nobody hired him as a head coach. All right, we are out. Peace.